Welcome back, sis. Did you miss me? It is now week 26 of my 40-year-old pregnancy journey. I'm glad you decided to join me this week. So the baby now has fingernails of its own and is actually beginning to practice how to swallow, which is like mind-boggling when you think about it because they're in liquid. They're in the amniotic fluid, but they're practicing swallowing. So I will tell y'all, I think I may have mentioned in the previous video, but what can happen over time is that the baby keeps swallowing the amniotic fluid. They're also peeing in there and pooping in there, very, very, very small amounts. But it's kind of gross, but yeah, they're like swallowing all that in addition to whatever is remaining in the amniotic fluid. So with Cameron, I actually was so thrilled that I gave delivery the day that I did. It was scheduled. It was a natural delivery, but it was scheduled. So the moment that the doctor broke my waters, we saw all this like lime green coloring coming out, which was freaking me out. My doctor is so cool. She just was like, huh. I was like, what is this? What is this? I looked at Kelvin like, oh my gosh. And my doctor was like, well, that's the baby's poop. The baby must have been pooping in the womb. And so she's like, this baby had to come out today, because what can happen is that the baby can ingest it and it can become toxic. Its own poop can actually become toxic. Think about it, because it's mixed with what I'm eating and then some of the other natural stuff that the baby is like developing in their own GI tract, like bacteria and stuff like that, probiotics. And so yeah, she was like, this baby had to be born today. So I was like, thank you, Lord. So that's just an interesting thing to know, that the baby is learning how to swallow right now, developing that reflex. And you're just hoping that, the baby's not ingesting its own urine or poop, because over time that actually could become toxic to the baby. Now the baby is the size of a squash. So that's about 2 pounds and about 14 inches long. So the baby's getting really big, really tall, and I'm starting to feel it. So I had a new symptom this week where for about 24 hours, I had a muscle spasm, and I wasn't sure at the time if it was Braxton Hicks or like if it was that round ligament pain that I talked about in one of my previous videos. And it just was a muscle spasm because it was 24 hours. It literally did not go away. Like, you get to the point where you like involuntarily cry. Like, I'm not even a crier. And I got to a point where I was like, oh my gosh, like my tears, I'm crying. Like, I am in that much pain. And I have been in worse pain. Like, I was in labor for 2 days when I had my first baby, Kennedy. So I know what contractions feel like. Like, I know real pain. And I don't know why, but my body was like, even though that's not a contraction, this is painful. So I couldn't sleep for that night. So it started at night. I want to say it was a little bit over 24 hours, because I started feeling the pain a couple nights ago, and I tried to sleep that night. Terrible. I was just back and forth, trying to find a good position that wasn't painful. Bad night. Then I realized when I woke up that the pain just was still there. So I was like, this is not a contraction. Like, this is different. And I ended up dealing with that for the whole 24 hours. Then went to sleep again that night with the same pain. And then, though sometime through the night, it went away. Because I remember I finally got some sleep in the middle of that night. And then I woke up pain-free. And I didn't even realize it. You get used to a throbbing pain. And Kennedy laid on me and she was like, is the baby still hurting you? And I felt so bad, like, oh no, the baby's not hurting me. But she knew I had been in pain the previous night and I was holding my stomach. So she kind of put 2 and 2 together. Smart girl. But anyway, so it went away. But let me tell you what I did to make it go away. So I realized the baby was laying transverse. And it could have just been that the baby was on its way downward, head down. But, I'm not sure. I felt the baby this way and this way, though, which felt weird because I would feel like toes tickling me over here. But then I felt this roundness over here. So at first I thought it was the baby's booty. And then I was like, oh, that's a head. Well, whatever that head was on, it didn't feel like a nerve. It actually felt like a muscle. And so they say the uterus is an actual muscle. And so somehow I think I was just getting stretched too much on this side because of the head. And my babies have big heads, by the way. Both of my babies were in the 99th percentile for their head circumference. And it wasn't even just when they were born. It ended up being like for the up to that first year. And then they finally like grew into their heads, but it was still in the 80th, like still big. They have big heads. And so I'm expecting this one to have another big head too. And I will say, by the way, like, close your ears if you don't want to hear this, mamas, but you know, when your baby has a big head, they tear you up on the way out. Like, Kennedy took 2 days because we couldn't get her head out. She was all the way down. I was induced and we could not get her out. They were about to do an emergency C-section, but we finally were able to get her turned and like get her head out after the doctor gave me an episiotomy. Ooh-wee. Even worse, with Cameron, my delivery was actually way quicker with hers. I delivered her in 16 minutes, like literally. But she tore me on the way out with her big head. So again, I know this one probably got a big one too. And that's what I was feeling a couple days ago. And so once I realized like, okay, the baby's lying this way instead of this way, let me Google and find out like what can I do naturally to get this baby to get off of this side and to go either up or down. And so I found some cool exercises online. There's all these techniques, but this one was a nice one where you lie sideways on the edge of your bed or your couch. I did it on my bed. And you have your hips aligned so that they're not like forward or backward. You have them completely aligned. And then you end up putting your leg that's on top over your leg. And so like if you're laying sideways and these are your two legs, you end up putting one over the other one and kind of letting it hang over. So if this is the edge of the bed or the couch, you're going to let that leg hang over while trying to keep your hips up straight. So it's a balancing act. And you can do it with a partner, but my husband was actually putting my daughter down to sleep at the moment, so I didn't want to interrupt that. That girl does not go to sleep easily. Anyway, so I actually ended up doing it by myself for about half hour. Just kept alternating sides. So you do a couple minutes one side, a couple minutes the other side, and you just keep alternating. Even though the pain was only on one side, the recommendation for this particular technique was to do both sides, because what you're doing is opening up your pelvic area so that the baby actually has space to move. So they're actually in a position that they don't want to be in. You got in a position that you don't want them to be in, but they don't know how to move out of that position. So if you open up your pelvic area and do that constantly, alternating both sides, both legs, it gives the baby the opportunity to loosen up. But one thing that saved me during that 24 hours or more of pain and muscle spasm was this belly band. So there's all types of belly bands out there. I actually have had this in my closet since I gave birth to Kennedy. So it's been about 4 years. Someone got it for me at my first baby shower, and I actually just never needed it, so I never wore it. Some of y'all may love these and already be very familiar with them. This one is just a Maidenform brand. The material is just a nylon, looks like a nylon spandex. So it's very comfortable. It has this nice lining, like a rubber lining, so that it sticks to your belly. It doesn't slide down. And this one in particular, some of them just go around your waist like a belt. This one is actually like a pair of panties. So that's why I really like this one. And I told y'all sometime during that night, the baby moved, and I know I finally got some rest, and I woke up, and every morning I wake up and I try to feel, where's the baby? And I couldn't feel any hardness over here anymore. So, you know, that's a little scary first. When you wake up, you're like, okay, I know you're right here. Where are you? Where are you? Weird mommy moments. Sometimes I wake up and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm pregnant. Like I literally forget that I'm pregnant, and then I look at my stomach, or the baby will move or something, and I'll be like, oh my gosh, there's a human inside of me. Sometimes in the morning, and if you're like me, you have that flat belly and you're like, where in the world is my baby? Did I dream I was pregnant? These are like the weird psychological things that moms experience, by the way. So if you feel me, I want to see a comment so I know that I'm not the only weird person alone. So I had my 26-week appointment. I told you guys I was going to go see my OB this week. The appointment went very well. She measured the baby. As I mentioned at the onset, the baby's about 14 inches now, 2 pounds. And I asked her, I was like, so remember you told me months ago that the baby was measuring big? I wondered, like, is the baby still measuring big, or like did the baby like slow down and like catch up with the average curve? And she died laughing. Like, my doctor is funny, y'all. Like, she's Black, she is young, and she keeps it real. So if she thinks you asking a dumb question, she gonna tell you. That's what I love about her, actually, is that she's got great bedside manner. She's super sweet, super down to earth. But again, if you ask her questions that are just out there, she gonna look at you like you crazy. So apparently that is just not normal for a baby that's measuring big to slow down and average out to where they're supposed to be. It just doesn't happen, apparently. So she said, your baby's going to continue. You're at 26 weeks because that's what the baby size is at 26 weeks. You're not at 24 or 23 where you thought you were. You're at 26. So I was like, okay, I just wanted to know. I just wanted to ask. So at that appointment, I had to get my whooping cough vaccine, which is so random. Like, first of all, that's the only shot that I'm even getting at the office. I told y'all I live at Quest. I'm at the lab. I get blood drawn. I get all my stuff done there. But I haven't had any vaccinations because I missed the flu vaccine, which usually I don't like to get it anyway. But I would have gotten it pregnant because I usually do get it when I'm pregnant. But I was so late into the flu season. By the time I was ready to get it, she had already ran out months prior. And then the one CVS in my area didn't have the one that you should get when you're pregnant. Any trimester, you can get the flu vaccine, but make sure it's not the nasal spray. It's not the inhaled one. It's just the normal injectable one. That's the only one that's safe for pregnant women. I'm giving you this disclaimer, but I didn't even get it this year. But I would recommend that you do, because all the studies show that it is safe. So I got a different shot. I got a whooping cough vaccine, which is like, what? So I asked my doctor. Y'all know I'm very cynical when it comes to medicine, when it comes to vaccines. Like, I need to know all the research, all the data. So I asked her, I said, so why are we still doing whooping coughs when we're pregnant? Like, of all the diseases out there, of all the vaccinations that are available, all the immunizations that are on the list, why are we getting this one when I'm pregnant? And so she talked about the fact that whooping cough is actually very dangerous. She said that a lot of times, a lot of moms don't get this one, and we see breakouts, just like we saw measles breakout here in Cali a couple years ago. She said apparently there was a whooping cough breakout a few years back. And she said, you know, people were shocked, like, where did this come from? We haven't heard of this disease in so long. It's been decades. And it's because moms have been skipping out because I guess they're cynical like me, and they're like, why do I need that shot? And so she's very much a proponent of vaccinations that are on the pregnancy schedule, and that's one of them. And so I did do it with my first two, and so I did decide to do it again with this one. That's the one you get it in your muscle, and it is painful for a couple days. I've heard some people, even with COVID, saying that their vaccine was painful at the site. This is like that. Like, all this stuff is messing up my precious sleep time lately. But I got the shot, and then by the time I got home, I was already starting to feel just that tenderness. And then literally by that night, by the time I was in bed, I couldn't even sleep. I kept turning on my left side, and I told the nurse, she said, which arm do you want it in? I said, don't do this one because my humidifier is on this side of my bed, and I sleep mostly that way. Well, apparently I don't, because I kept sleeping. I kept turning on my left side where the shot was done, and I kept like wincing in pain, like in the middle of the night, and I kept waking up and like raising myself up just to shake it off and then try to lay back down the other way. It was painful, and it lasted for 2 days. But then it went away, and I felt fine. I did feel a little fatigued throughout that first day. Second day, I felt way just normal, just having that soreness, and then again it went away. So that is the whooping cough. So I can't let you go until you see my week 26 belly bump. So here it is. All right, you can see I got a little something. I got a lot of something actually. It's getting bigger, y'all. And like I told y'all, the baby was like this way this week, and I was like, what is going on? But now I can't tell if the baby's head went this way or this way. I think baby head actually went down because I felt, again, either twinkle toes or maybe his fingers up here. But I know for a fact the baby's not laying this way anymore. That was just like a 24-hour period of pain I endured, but it's over and baby's good. Mama feels good. So I look forward to seeing you next week, and that'll be week 27 of my pregnancy journey.